On a Tuesday like any other, after my morning coffee had its effect, I had to take the usual bathroom break. Now, as I stood up, almost by reflex, my hand reached out for the phone. You see, there was no control on my part, just an autopilot action bound to get me distracted and waste 15 minutes I didn't need to. For whatever reason, this particular day I was much more focused and present than usual. So much more that I was able to stop before the usual course of action took place. So, after a few seconds of internal conflict, the phone stayed where it was. You see, the work I took a break from was the creative brainstorm type. I was going over different ideas, deciding what to choose to write and to do videos, and quite honestly, I was not having any good idea. Perhaps, likely, honestly, this break was nothing more than an excuse to step away from this obstacle. An excuse I have no doubts you often give yourself. Being forced to literally sit with this issue, staring at the wall, the idea I was waiting for arrived. In the midst of my mind arguing with itself, a flash of clarity occurred. Now, before we get into the video, let me give you a summary of what I'm actually getting at here. A lesson I've had to learn and relearn time and time again, and I have no doubt that you can use as well. And that is that stillness and clarity are the antidote to the obstacles of progress you face. Boredom, the one you keep escaping from, is the missing key you are after. So let's begin by understanding why. Most of us, when faced with boredom, overwhelm, a sense of I don't want to do what is in front of me, all run toward comfort. Most of us. At the very least, you feel a great pull toward some comfortable activities, some avoidance activities that allow you for a little bit to forget what you should be doing. That's why I drew here an attempt at the phone. That is the most common. We all go to, you open the phone, tap Instagram, and then all of a sudden your problems disappear. And all of a sudden for 15 minutes, you can forget all about it. But as we all know, once we're done, we regret it. Because not only did we skip on the uncomfortable tasks we should be doing, but also now we kind of screwed up our focus for the day. The reason why this happens before we move forward is, and if you have read Atomic Habits, you'll recognize this, it's really just the way that habits are formed. So usually the cue, you notice that in this case that you are bored, you are overwhelmed, then you crave not being in that state. You take a response, in this case you open Instagram and you are immediately rewarded with, you can avoid it for now. And next time that you notice it, it will be a stronger desire because you know there is a reward at the end of it. This is why if you look at any bad habit that people have, that's why it's so easy to set them up, because this is really set up by default. The reward is there immediate by default. Healthy habits, it's much harder to feel that reward in the short term. Now, I say all of this not to change habits, it's not what we're talking about here today, but above all of focusing on boredom and why it's so important, boredom, and understanding here why it's also so difficult to stay with it, but to understand that if we are able to stay with it, things really do change for the better, drastically. And when we look at here, if we want to change this, that I assume you do want to change this and you want to allow yourself to be more creative, to have better ideas, to overall just be calmer and stiller and to appreciate life more, it all starts here by understanding that you are not your thoughts. And this really is what will start a chain reaction for everything else that comes after this. And it's so important because when we look at the main reason why we go to comfort right away as soon as we feel it and why we avoid these feelings is because we believe that our thoughts are the fullness of us. And so if this voice in my mind tells me like, oh, open Instagram, I open Instagram. And if it tells me don't work right now, I don't work right now. And if it tells me feel sad, then it means I'm sad. But that is not true. Because while these thoughts are a part of you, and there's no denying it, and I'm gonna even try and drawing it here, while they are a part of you, and this being you, they are not the fullness of you, these being the thoughts. What I mean by that is that you can think, or you can first of all recognize that a lot of times these things that pop up into your mind are random. You're just there chilling, and all of a sudden, oop, I'm stressed about the exam coming up, or the project coming up, or how am I gonna pay the bills at the end of the month? But this just appeared out of nowhere, seemingly, and also it will disappear seemingly out of nowhere, because all of a sudden then you scroll Instagram a bit and then you forgot about it. Maybe it comes up later, but for a bit you forgot about it. What this shows us is that, and if we put ourselves in a third person perspective, we can observe almost, if you can have that presence as the thought appears, you can kind of see it play out without you being fully involved in it. You can have more of this perspective where you're here and the thought is happening there and it's not fully consuming you. What this shows you, especially when you put yourself in the third person perspective, and I'm gonna have a further video more about meditation and how to kind of develop this ability, but doing this, understanding that you are not your thoughts, you open a space. A very important space, as Viktor Frankl said, between thought and action. Because within this space, between thought and action, this space here, if you can recognize it's there, it's where your freedom lies. Your freedom to choose who you will be. Not what these thoughts pop up into your mind tell you, but who you will be. And most importantly, for the purpose of today's video, especially when you recognize this and you allow yourself to be bored, to be without distractions, to be without stimulus, without Instagram, without none of this bullshit, you allow space for the best ideas that you're ever gonna have to arrive. Like I was showing, the whole idea for this video, the article, a lot of the ones that are coming up, was simply because instead of taking the phone to the bathroom, I took those 10 minutes or however long I was there, and I was just without the phone, without nothing, and without distractions, and with a purpose in mind, because I had the purpose of I'm thinking of ideas, the mind will work with you. And it will work with you in a way that is so much better than you can consciously, a lot of times, think just sitting there and thinking, what are the ideas? Like I was, because nothing was coming up. I was just staring at the paper and being like, none of this is good. Because what we have to understand here, looking back at here, that you are not your thoughts, not the fullness of you. What this means is that you're also not just this logical, conscious part of yourself. The mind has stored all the information about you, about your past experiences, what you did, what went well, what went wrong, what you want, what you don't want, what's deeper than you allow yourself to even tell yourself. And it can take all of these things and help you make these decisions and being creative and doing these things. But it is not something that you can just write on an Excel sheet, consider the pros, the cons, and all this, and then put in some AI thing and it will give you the result. It doesn't work like that because it doesn't work in a linear, logical way. The reason why I drew this apple here is because if you think about Isaac Newton, when he was thinking about gravity, the theory of gravity, not being able to solve these things, not understanding, but then he allows himself to take a break, sit under the tree, and as the apple falls on his head, and he feels that, his mind connects the dots that he wasn't being able to consciously. Intuition helped him. It worked for him, but he had to allow it, consciously or not, for it to work in his favor. And you have to do it too. The more you do it, the better. Now, does it mean that as soon as you do this, that your life's solved and everything is good now? Of course not. It doesn't work like that. The whole concept of boredom and of being bored is that it is not comfortable. When you're bored, you don't want to be bored. No one wants it. That's why social media is so popular, because we all hate being bored. We all hate being overwhelmed. We don't want to have these feelings. But we have to recognize that we are more than our thoughts. We are more than our feelings. And if we allow ourselves to just be a little uncomfortable in the beginning, it will then allow for these ideas to come up. It will allow for this transformation to happen. And above all, going a bit further, it will allow us to just have a much more pleasant experience of life. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is not our darkness, but our light that most scares us. Now you may look at this and think that, oh, this doesn't really apply to me. It's not for me, I'm not afraid of that. I want change, I want better results, and I want it now. However, and I even draw here the apple again, I know you know people by their fruits, by what they deliver. And if what they deliver is being stuck, and if you've been stuck for a lot of years, a lot of months in the same goal, and things don't seem to change, and it's almost like you've hit a brick wall, then that tells me something. It tells me that this is true for you. Because someone that is stuck is not stuck by accident or by being unfortunate or being unlucky. That does not happen. It happens because they're doing things that are comfortable. Because what is happening is that once stuck in that level shows me and shows anyone that observes that you are just doing what is comfortable to you. Reading books that you've already read, lifting weights that you can already lift, traveling through paths that you've already traveled, and I ask you, can someone grow smarter reading the same books they've always read and already know and master and understand? Can someone grow stronger by lifting the weights they already can lift? And can someone grow wiser by walking the paths they've already walked? They cannot. And they will not be able to. And if you're stuck, that is what you're doing. Even if you don't want to recognize it. Because when your intuition pushes you further and you feel that little nudge towards something that's a bit uncomfortable, you don't do it. Perhaps you do it a bit with what you've already mastered, but you don't do it enough to continue progressing and to continue going to the next levels that call for you. And the reason for that is very simple. It's because the more you are to trust this intuition, the more you move toward your light, the more certain things have to burn away. It's like you're getting closer to the sun. The closer you get, the more this dead wood that you carry will have to burn. Certain bad habits, bad tendencies, bad thoughts, bad things all around you that a lot of times they may not even seem that bad, but that they're weighing you down. And if you don't allow them to burn away, to be uncomfortable enough to burn them away, you will not progress. Now you may tell me here, if you can accept this, because accepting it is the first step to moving, and so if you're not getting what you want and you're stuck, then you're forced to recognize that something's not working. Now, the reason why a lot of times it's very difficult is because it's quite painful. It is a painful process to let go of certain things, of certain people, of certain habits, of certain tendencies, because we don't want to do it. And that's why we haven't done it. If you've been here for years, that's why it is comfortable and it is pleasant, even if we don't want to admit it. And to that, the end, not to keep it too long, I'll say to you, it is painful. And I understand that it is painful. That's why it's so important, everything we talked about before, to allow you to change. Because at the end of the day, you cannot avoid pain. It's either the pain now of changing, or you delay it, and it's the pain of avoiding your destiny, of avoiding your fate. So what will you choose?